Now we're going to factor by grouping, and we're going to do this with a 4-term polynomial. We've got u squared plus 3u plus 6uq plus 18q. And here's what you do. Put parentheses around the first two terms. Put parentheses around the second two terms. Now, we're going to factor the first set of parentheses by the greatest common factor. And you can see that both of these terms have a u in them. So we'll say u parentheses u plus 3. And you know this because u times u, if you distribute the u times u is u squared, and u times 3 is 3u. So we've done this correctly. You can always go backwards to check yourself. Now, the same thing over here. We know that 18 is 6 times 3. So both terms have a 6, and both terms have a q. So 6q is going to be the GCF of the second two terms, which will leave us with a u plus a 3. Well now, and again, yes, you can distribute the 6q to the u. That will give you 6qu, or 6uq. And you can take the 6u and multiply it by the 3, and you'll get 18q, which is what you started with. Now, notice that the u plus 3 in both terms is exactly alike. They are exactly alike. So this now becomes your GCF. Pull that out to the front. U plus 3. Because you've got a u plus 3 in this term and a u plus 3 in this term. You pull that out, and what you're left with is u plus 6q. But how do you know you're right? How do you know you're correct? Really? Well, here's how. I'm going to FOIL these two factors. F, O, I, L. And remember, there's an understood plus between the first, the outside, the inside, and the last. So now, first is going to be u times u. That's u squared. Outside is going to be u times 6q. So that's going to be 6uq. Or actually, it should be 6qu. But, oh well. And then inside is going to be 3u. And last is going to be 3 times 6 times q, which will be 18q. And of course, we're adding these terms. And that's it. We can rearrange any terms that are added. So we'll have u squared plus 3u plus 6uq plus 18q, which is exactly what we started with, so that means this is the correct factorization. Talk to you later. We're going to factor a 4-term polynomial by grouping. And why is it called grouping? Because we group the first two terms and we group the second two terms. So I'm going to group the first two terms, and I'm going to group the second two terms, and then I'm going to factor the first two terms by the greatest common factor. Both of these terms have an a in them, so I'll pull out an a, and then a times what is a squared? Well, a times a is a squared. Copy the minus sign. A times what is 7a? Well, 7. Because a times 7 is 7a. We've taken care of the first set of parentheses. Now, I'm going to factor the second set of parentheses by GCF. Both of these terms have a b in them, so I'll pull out the b as a common factor. B times what is AB? Well, times A. So I'll write down an A, copy down the minus sign, and then B times what is 7B? 7. B times 7 is 7B. So now we've factored the second set of parentheses by GCF, the greatest common factor. Now, consider the entire polynomial. The plus in the middle separates the first term from the second term. Notice that both of these terms have an a minus 7. I will pull a minus 7 out as the GCF. And then I'll write the leftovers, a plus b. Now, how can we be sure that we got it right? By foiling. F plus O plus I plus L. A times A is a squared. Outside is a times b. Inside is minus 7a. And last is minus 7b. And remember, there's an understood plus sign anytime you subtract. And when you have plus signs, when you have terms that are added, the order doesn't matter, so you can rearrange them. Well, now that I have my imaginary plus signs, they're not imaginary. They're really there, only we don't usually write them. I can now switch my terms around. A squared minus 7a plus ab minus 7b. This is exactly what I started with, and that means that this is the correct factorization.